After his conquest of Transylvania, Michael the Brave favored the Orthodox Romanians, and especially their clergy, but it was not long before this had to change. To govern the province, he needed the support of the Diet, which was dominated by the Hungarian nobility. He even had to punish the peasants who had revolted. Consequently, when he entered Alba Iulia in a triumph, the Diet recognized him as the emperor representative, though Michael called himself voivode of Wallachia and Transylvania in official documents. It is difficult to imagine how things would have evolved had Michael rule lasted. The fact is that he was influenced by the Wallachian boyars, who were probably feeling more secure in Transylvania and had started to covet the fortunes and privileges enjoyed by the local magnates, which would later attract the hostility of the Hungarian nobility. During his short reign over Transylvania, Michael tried to achieve a subtle balance between the various forces and tendencies in the province, which included a rapprochement towards the Catholic clerical courts and a preference for Lutherans over Protestants. In the meantime, the situation was changing fast. Concerned about news he had received of a Polish plan to overthrow him in his own country Wallachia and put Simeon Movila, brother of the Moldavian voivode, on the throne, Michael swiftly crossed the mountains into Moldavia in May 1600s and drove away voivode Ieremia Movila. And thus, for a few months, Michael the Brave ruled that province too. The coins he minted during that time proclaimed him voivode of Wallachia, Transylvania and Moldavia. It was the first time that all Romanians were united under the same ruler. This was but an ephemeral achievement. In Transylvania, the Hungarian magnates began to revolt. Polish forces invaded Moldavia, led by one of the illustrious figures in their history, Grand Hetman Jan Zamoyski, and put a garrison Michael had left there to flight. Therefore, Moldavia was lost after a mere few months. At the same time, Michael was defeated at the unfortunate Battle of Miroslav in September 1600, which cost him Transylvania. By late autumn of that year, he was no longer voivode of Wallachia either, where the Poles had managed to impose Simeon Movila upon the throne. At that point, Michael traveled to Prague himself in desperate attempt to persuade the emperor that he was the more capable ally. It is from that time we have the image of Michael the Brave, found in an allegorical painting by Franken the Younger, a renowned Flemish painter who happened to be working in Rudolf II's palace at that time. Franken wanted to depict the emperor as King Croesus of ancient Greek legends, showing his riches to Solon. Close by is a character clad in armor, of whom we know is Michael the Brave, alongside his beautiful daughter Florica, who had accompanied her father to Prague. The emperor again pledged his support and ordered General Giorgio Basta, an Albanian who commanded the imperial army, to ally himself with Michael and take back Transylvania from the Hungarians, who had asked Sigismund Báthory to return. Basta and Michael the Brave were victorious in a new battle at Gorazlow on 3rd of August 1601. But Basta decided to assassinate Michael under the pretext that the Wallachian did not agree with his future military plans. Basta probably wanted the voivodeship of Transylvania for himself. Either way, after a few days after the battle of 19th of August 1601, he summoned Michael to his tent, behind which several Walloon mercenaries were lying in the way. They killed Michael the Brave, who defended himself with his sword, speared by several men and then beheaded. Could the emperor have ordered his demise, thinking he was too ambitious, or fearing he would ruin the Habsburg plan to annex Transylvania? This is still unclear. The head of Michael the Brave was smuggled back to Wallachia by one of his boyars, Radu Florescu, who was apparently his half-brother. It was a tragic end to the history of Michael the Brave. In the meantime, the Buzeș brothers, who were the most valiant of Wallachia's great boyars, had ousted Simeon Movila. But the struggle against the Ottomans was not yet over. The new voivode of Wallachia, Radu Șerban, 1602–1610, who called himself Basarab because he was descendant from a sister of Neagu Basarab, fought the Turks alongside the Habsburgs for several years with some success. It was from around this time that we have an episode which seems cut right out of legend about the Chamberlain Stro Buzescu, who was sent at the head of an army corps to stop a Tatar invasion. Buzescu challenged the Tatar Khan to single combat and, after an incredible duel, slew him as his horde fled. Yet our boyar too was seriously injured and taken to Brasov. We can only imagine the difficult conditions through the woods and mountain paths, most likely through Najlo Valley, where he died of his infected wounds, which doctors were powerless to do anything about in these days. Here is something which may seem rather surprising at first. For a long time, Radu Șerban was far more present in the memory of the people than Michael the Brave. Again, we must look at this within the historical context. Michael the Brave was not a popular voivode. As I mentioned before, he had passed a law called the Bondage of Michael the Brave, which forbade peasants to run away from one estate to another and effectively tied peasants to the land. It also cancelled a ban on boyars hunting down runaway serfs on other estates in order to get them back. I should also add that Michael favored the expansion of the boyars' great estates at the cost of the free peasantry, having bought dozens of villages for himself before as well as after becoming voivode. It was because of these reasons that Michael was not well loved and why there was little mention of him during the 17th and 18th centuries. It was not until the 19th century that our brilliant historian Nicolae Bălcescu rediscovered the story of Michael the Brave.